Hey guys, hey. So yeah, welcome to today's live. And yeah, so Abhishek will be joining just a second. So till I think we have Abhishek with us. So just a second, I'll take him in the call. And okay, let's just wait for 2 minutes. Yeah, Abhishek.
I guess
Hello.
we have Abhishek with us. Yeah. Hi,
Hey man, how's it
Abhishek.
going, man?
Hi. Great, great. How are you?
All good, man. All good. Thank you very much.
Great. Amazing.
How's
So,
it
am
going
I
with you?
audible?
Yes, you are. Loud and
Great.
clear.
So, Abhishek, you were saying something?
No, man. I think it's all clear on my end. Let me know if you have trouble hearing me.
Great, great. So, yeah. So, I think we are good to go. So, maybe we can start. So yeah. First of all, I would like to welcome you, Abhishek, on our platform. And also, I would like to welcome all the audiences right now over here in the live. As you all must be aware about that, today's session is on from roadblocks to trumps, success stories in the startup journey. And we have with us Mr. Abhishek Malik, who is the founder of Tokenfolio. So, Mr. Abhishek is an IIT Kanpur alumnus coming from a mix of tech and investing background. He has been investing in private markets since 2017. His last role before Tokenfolio was as the data scientist lead of German tokenization platform, where he released how fractionizing and digitizing assets improve participation from all stakeholders. Before that, he built his first venture, a B2B SaaS, which was sold to Goethe Institute. His proprietary tech from this is now used to launch courses in 140 plus countries. So it's great to have you here, Abhishek.
Well, thank you very much, Aman, for the nice introduction. And yeah, looking forward to contributing and hopefully taking your journey of making Bharat more financially aware a bit forward.
ग्रेट ग्रेट सो अभिषेक हाउ अबाउट आप अपनी जर्नी के बारे में कुछ बताओ लाइक थोड़ा आई वुड बी बायस्ड ऑन दैट आईआईटी कानपुर के टाइम से कुछ आप रेलेवेंस लेते हुए अपनी जर्नी बताओ सर राइट
Um, I think my journey now is very different from the pre-IIT Conpur era, of course, and there are some no, there are some stories beyond the professional lines that have, of course, helped me, help shape me so far, but mostly like my journey has been quite unstable. Like I started as an engineer, went into sciences, studied astrophysics, then went into data science, and um, AI/ML was not as popular back then, but still was quite an active thing. But then I realized at some point I had my midlife crisis, and when I moved back to India, I didn't know really what to do next. This is where the entire idea and the mission for Tokenfolio came in the picture. Honestly, I just wanted to do something like that for myself. I also feel like there is some nationalistic angle here. When I moved back to India, I started liking India way more. People talk about how amazing US and Germany and all these countries are, but really, man, like it's just grass on the other side, grass is green on the other side kind of syndrome. So when you come back, um, there are so many things that I appreciate more. And then honestly, India is it is India's decade. So if you're building something, even a lot of foreign investors that we are working with, they do believe it that the growth numbers are best in India. If you're investing in a venture. So for that reason, as well as the nationalistic angle here, like this sounds like the right time to build what we are building, and also sort of like a little bit of give back to the country here.
great great so as you mentioned that it's quite a change when you come back to India anything आप कुछ बताना चाहोगे कि what was the thing that you missed while you were abroad so any one thing maybe anything to
Honestly, like everybody who's abroad realized that normal things like Indian day-to-day Indian food is just not available. You can try to make it by yourself, but like I'm not. The people who know me here, they know that I'm a terrible chef. This but yeah, man. But beyond that, beyond the little things, right? I do feel that Indian people in general are some of the most hardworking, and like the real hustle culture is here, and you can see that they see this in startup ecosystem as well. Like when you look at companies like Swiggy,
hmm. Hmm.
nothing like that exists outside, and what people have done with
Okay.
very little. So all segments really, not only startups. You look at this Mangal Yaan thing that we had, and like with so
Right,
little, so
right,
much, it's so such a big population, of course,
right.
but with very little resources, we are just used to achieving so much more. So that will now compound, I believe, over the next year. So I think it's just a mix of, casual things like food and, of course, the smartness and the hustle.
Great. Great. So yeah, so I'll just take that point of as you mentioned about that investors and the growth potential that right now we can see in India. So you mentioned about investments. So over here at Financial Level Bharat also we try to give that financial literacy to our audience and make content on that. So there is one aspect of it which is startup investing. So
Right.
why do you think that startup investments are important? Right. So anything you would like to share on that?
Right. So it's actually quite amazing that we have Shark Tank, now season two actually. And
Hmm.
I mean, so many people are now aware of what startup investment is and why this is important and like how this happens with pitching, at the angle of, okay, what sharks do.
Hmm.
I feel like the show does not really capture the real market in terms of
Correct.
the real game that happens, but it is actually providing the basic information needed to for this. Now that people are more aware about startup
Hmm.
investing being a thing,
Hmm.
next step is actually providing people some tools to do it. So now they are.
Hmm.
So first, let's just take a step back and talk about why this is important. So if you look at companies like Zomato, for example, when Zomato
Hmm.
IPO was going on, there was huge hype. I have friends that were signing up with like duplicate like double phone numbers, same account, like different phone numbers, so they can get more allocation. And
Right.
the Zomato IPO happened at 116 rupees per share.
Hmm.
This went nearly to half of it at some point, and right now it's at 74. That's like almost 35 to 40% money lost. So people who got into IPO, after all that, shabam of signing up with multiple numbers, they lost nearly half the money. That is not like the macro environment is bad, right? So there's no nothing on Zomato, but the early investors of Zomato made so much more, and
Hmm.
still they made so much more,
Hmm.
right? So I feel like
Hmm.
the average Indian is losing, and average Indian
Right.
does not have the best opportunities out there.
Hmm.
And those happen, of course, when you come into the startup world, when companies are not listed. Of
Hmm.
course, it's a bit more risky as well. But the more the risk, but the upside is also, in some cases, I know investors that have made like 3,000 X's of their earliest investors, of their earliest investment in a company. And then, surprisingly, companies like Zomato would have made good multiples as well, right? But like not for retail investors. So I feel like average Indian still is losing. It is
Hmm.
still a game for
Right.
the HNIs or the big guys or even the foreign investors. If you look at
Right.
Paytm and other companies, so many
Hmm.
Chinese investors are involved. So I feel like it's our country, man. Like our people should have some access at least. Now they're more educated on this bit.
Right. 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 So yeah, I think this has been something like if we keep apart investment, so working for a startup has become something jokey. Like I have seen in campus, people are like they are
Right.
not reluctant to work for a startup. They would like to join startup, and then comes the point of ESOPs. Maybe they pay less, but there is something ESOP. So I've seen not all, but majority of the people are not aware about the true potential of ESOPs and those
Right.
unlisted shares which can act as a real wealth. So, what's your Abhishek take on that? How one should manage their ESOPs and what are these actually for? Just maybe you can share something about that.
Yeah, sure, sure. I feel like this ESOP topic is a pain point that is pretty close to my heart, and I feel pretty strongly about it because every now and then I see people. Some of them are my close friends from campus. When you join a startup, in this case, startup can be a very early stage company as well as a very late stage company, as late as Swiggy, for example. It's not a listed company yet, but it's a fairly large company.
Hmm.
Or ShareChat, like that's an IIT Kanpur company. So I have
Hmm.
people from my close circle, and almost everybody, at least in Bangalore ecosystem, they get some ESOPs. But I feel like when people negotiate their CTCs, when you read this fancy news about, oh, 1 CR ka package to an IIT Kanpur grad, one component of that package is ESOPs, and people just discount it for some reason. A lot of even parents think that, oh, ye to shares hai. Like this is not something valuable. So I'm like,
Right.
more and more I'm getting into this, more and more I'm realizing that it is important to make people more aware. And this is not only real wealth that people are playing with. For example, there's a client of ours. We are dealing in this growth stage company. It's a fairly large company. I can share the name at least. It's Postman. Postman is one
Postman.
of the biggest, one of the very well-known unicorns of India. One of the first ones
Right.
actually.
Right.
It's like the poster boy of Indian unicorn ecosystem. So somebody working, Postman was an Indian company. Now they're headquartered in the States. So
Hmm.
somebody working here, one of the clients we have, we are dealing in their ESOPs, as in we are acquiring their shares, and then our investors deal in Postman, for example. So when
Hmm.
I actually checked his documents, I found that one third of his options or ESOPs were expired. So you have a window to execute them. So ESOP is nothing but an opportunity to buy share at a cheaper price. If you don't buy it, they will expire. So I feel like one third of this was expired, and I don't know. I don't think he realized that this is real money going to waste. In this case, the value of the ESOP that was expired was something around 40 lakh rupees. This is
Oh,
literally like
okay.
a transaction that like I know people who would buy it in a heartbeat. Like he would have received these 40 lakhs immediately. Like that. This is the money that I'm calling it money because he worked for it. It was part of his package. He earned it. But I don't think people are aware that hey, beyond your salary, this is actually real money and more than money. They can Postman an IPO and this can go like 3x, 4x at least, right? So I feel like Indians are losing here because Indians don't know this that well. If you look at US markets, Postman is now a US company. We speak to US shareholders and Indian folks that are working in the States. Um,
Hmm.
so in this case, I know people who are actively buying and selling their shares, like ESOP holders. So I feel like
Right.
just US people are a lot more aware, and companies are a lot more mature as well. They educate people around this bit. This is an active negotiation point in their salary negotiations, for example, right? So, for example, right now, I think the biggest thing I will come back to this at some point in this call, but the biggest thing I want to convey here is that it is easier for a company to give out ESOPs, but harder for a company to give out money, especially in times like this when cash is basically
Right.
there's cash crunch everywhere, right? So if you're sitting with a
Right.
manager and negotiating, why not ask for instead of asking for 25,000 more every month, like increment in salary, why not ask for like one lakh of ESOP every month? The difference is that company is not paying anything out of their own pocket, so it's actually a good negotiation point, and then you can cash out that 1 lakh whenever you want. Like, for companies like Postman, it is fairly easy at least now. Not in India though, because rich people are just not aware how to get this done. This is something that we are solving at Tokenfolio as well, by the way.
Oh, okay. Great. Great. So yeah, I'll just give you an experience. What I felt when I was interacting with one of the senior. Right. I'll not obviously not tell his name right now. So
Mhm.
we were discussing about this ESOPs and how to basically choose between multiple offers. Right. So he was mentioning multiple things and he told about some of the juniors. Yeah, they asked his payout like how like कितने की आपकी नौकरी लगी, and then they asked about the base pay. Right. So so when he mentioned his base pay, जो कि कम था, right, but ESOPs were quite large, so they all reacted in quite unpleasing way. कि हाँ, मतलब they were not
Okay.
respecting that base pay because ESOP बहुत ज़्यादा था. So as you mentioned about the point, कि हाँ, people are very less aware about these things. कि हाँ, what exactly these can contribute to and एक अपने personal finance के लिए कितना important हो सकता है. So, Abhishek, from that, I just wanted to discuss, as we discussed about ESOPs and something related to on the corporate side. So, what's your opinion on basic stock investing? Like, so those who trade and who wants to get into stock market or any sort of mutual fund. So, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah. So I feel like that depends on your risk threshold. What is the ideal asset for you, right? So if you look at stock market, they are all large companies. The company has to be at a certain level to be listed in, let's say, in Bombay Stock Exchange, right? So Zomato got to that level and now is listed.
Right.
So I feel like it is more safer, or like your money will not
Hmm.
disappear overnight. For example,
Hmm.
that might happen in the startup ecosystem, yes. But it's also like the upside is limited. People are
Hmm.
ecstatic if their Zomato holdings become double, like 2x is like a good return, in the markets and Bombay Stock Exchange. But uh, if you want something which gives you a little bit more peace, and you're investing a bigger ticket size,
Hmm.
that is a slower moving market, but also less risky and safer and regulated and whatnot. But if you are trying to if you have like at least some part of the portfolio should be allocated in this way where you could make, in some cases, let's say generational wealth.
Hmm.
I know a couple of
Hmm.
angels. So this particular one of the first angels in the company, Polygon, that's an Indian
Hmm.
blockchain. It's a unicorn as
Right.
well.
Right.
The first investor in it, he's an IT Kharagpur alumni, a very well-known person in the ecosystem.
Hmm.
He has made enough through that one angel investment that he has his own fund now. Like he literally, like that is generational wealth making story right there. So I feel like that depends on your awareness as well as your risk threshold, how much you can take. So if you are too busy to handle anything or to source opportunities or don't really know how to educate yourself on this bit, probably just go with the stock market because it is made for the masses. But if you think about it, man, things that are usually made for the masses are just not the best things out there. Everybody says, "Kiar, just go do BTech from a random place," right? That's not like if you are an artist, and why not? Why do just what everybody is doing, right? Why not follow your passion? So I feel like general advice is just almost always never good advice. So stock market is like that. It's made for the general people. So somebody who don't want hassle, that's probably the
Hmm.
best place to be. I personally do not really deal with much in listed stocks because I feel like the growth is too slow. And but if somebody is a beginner, that can be a good place to start.
Right. Right. So let's maybe some discuss on how one can invest in mature startups, right? So there is something that secondary market and why they are important. So just maybe you can tell something about that.
Right. So I think it's important to, you mentioned secondary market, it's important to sort of explain what this is, right? So when you look at Shark Tech deals, almost all of them are primary offerings, not secondary. The main difference is that when a company is raising new funds, they are issuing new
Hmm.
shares. So the shares come from,
Hmm.
newly issued shares come from company, they are primaries, they call primaries.
Hmm.
If the company is not raising new round, sometimes the existing shareholders, or it can be the founder, selling, or a shareholder, like an employee who has ESOPs, is selling that you are not buying newly issued shares, you're buying existing shares from somebody. That is called secondary. So I feel like, especially in markets like this, so this is the funny story. Like my dad once called me and mentioned about he liked to talk about politics and whatnot. So he mentioned that some Aaj Tak news maybe, which was like, oh, in Modi's government, 90% of the startups are failing or going to zero, something like that. To me, this was like sort of a historical news because yes, no matter whose government it is, even Obama's, 90% of startups go to zero. Like you invest in a company, let's say you invested 50 lakhs, that literally goes to zero. The company closes, you get nothing at all. So 90% of startup will eventually fail. So that's the early stage one, right? So, but think about it. If a company grows at a certain level, let's say share chart right now is, I don't know, maybe 3-4 billion for
Three,
a
four
billion
billion.
dollar
Yeah.
company, right?
Right.
Now 3-4 billion will not disappear overnight. So it's a bit more safer of a deal if you want to park your money.
Hmm.
Then investing in the same company at a much earlier stage. So in 2015, Farid is a senior of mine, 1 year senior to me. When he started, it was like 2016, I think it was. At that point, they might have raised at like 2 million valuation. So, like this time it's like 1,000 times more money involved, right? So that money will not disappear overnight. So hence it's a bit more safer
Hmm.
deal, but the upside is also limited, right? So a 4 billion company will not go to 40 billion that easily. So 10x is difficult. But if you look at a $5 million company, that can easily go to 1 billion. That can be like,
Hmm.
so many zeros can be added to it. So I feel like secondaries are important because in this market, especially when there's money crunch and like risk thresholds are low, secondary deals provide people, or mature companies provide people safer opportunities to invest, but with
Hmm.
good upsides. For example, imagine if you would have invested in Tesla before IPO. Tesla had like a amazing
Amazing.
run. Tesla
Amazing.
investors have
Amazing.
made like ton of money. So imagine getting in
Right.
Tesla before the IPO happened. Like that would be everybody, almost everybody who got into Zomato before IPO must have made good money. Like, but the ones who got after are the ones who might have lost. So I feel like it is important to make people aware about sort of investing, but also growth stage companies because they are well suited for, I would say, most people because they are safe for just like they are not as safe as Bombay Stock Exchange listed firms, but they're still safe for investments and there's a good step to get into.
Right, right. Yeah. So yeah, I think as you like I've discussed about secondary market and investment to that. So there should be some problems associated with that. Right. So maybe you can just tell something on those lines. What are the problems associated with these secondary deals like the shareholders, the ticket size, and use legal
Yeah.
and broker, like just on those lines.
Yeah, we actually have some pretty interesting. We have been having pretty interesting talks these days. We are working on this campaign for SpaceX. What that means is we allow. So SpaceX is a private company,
Right.
very well known, and they launched Starlink and whatnot. So this is in the talks for now. But that is a company which is like of valuation of around 140 billion. Like that's fairly large. So a company of that scale would not worry about your money until you are investing multi-billion dollar amounts. Right? The company does not worry about your small ticket sizes. So if you think about in Indian terms, salaries are much lower. So even if you are an HNI, high net worth individual in India, you can let's say you're happy to invest 20 lakhs, which is fairly decent ticket size as compared to like for Indian markets.
Right.
Even
Right.
then, like you could be like one of the top investors here. Even then, nobody will really care about your 20K, 20 lakh check.
Right.
It's
Right.
just too small for the company. The company has other things to worry about. So the entry for these investment opportunities are really like just well guarded, and unless you know Elon Musk personally or the management of SpaceX personally, which is
Right.
almost always very hard. So the problem with this is that companies of that scale do not want to deal with small ticket sizes. That's one. Secondly, um, there are issues with, let's say, it's an unlisted company, right? You cannot just download Zerodha and find this. So you need to find a seller, first of all, who owns the share, and then you have to verify it, and then you have to sell it. And then you have to pay a ton of legal fees, and it's a US stock, so you need to hire some legal counsels in the States, and it is just, and the legal costs in the States are like skyrocketing already.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it is just like all these hurdles, and even if you jump all these hoops, minimum ticket size that companies deal with these days, or at least investors deal with these days, is 100,000 US dollars. That's like almost 1 crore. So for one
Yeah.
investment of 1 crore, that's just like not many Indians can access that anyway. Assuming you jump, you somehow find a shareholder and verified it and pay all the legal fees. Now we do that. We try to solve that puzzle a little bit. What we do is we at Tokenfolio,
Hmm.
we have
Hmm.
our community of LPs, folks who are interested in investing in such companies. Now, if we combine everybody, that can become a sizable chunk, and we do the hard work of
Hmm.
finding sellers, negotiating, and then doing the legal work, yada yada. And then now these people can now this process of it's like uh, because we are combining small ticket size. By small, I mean 20 lakhs ticket sizes. We are able to give these people access to the bigger deal. Otherwise, they would not get in right with this kind of ticket size. So it is more like combining the Indian unit economics angle. The way I don't know the way you might the way Swiggy, let's say, is able to somehow make deliveries sustainable. It's
Right.
something similar, but in the
Right.
private market space. So I feel like getting into companies like even Postman, for example, it's a US company now, but it's a $3 billion company. They don't want, they have enough things to worry about. They don't want, they cannot, you cannot engage them with 50 lakhs ticket size check. You need to be, and honestly, like in a lot of these companies, cap table is protected. What it means is they don't want you to hold shares directly because unless if, you are a big ticket size investor, otherwise the company has to do
Hmm.
compliances and they don't want to add you as a party that they have to worry about every year for your 50 lakh ticket size, when a company is of that scale.
Right.
So I feel like
Right.
now essentially it's an idea, essentially it's a way where we are able to now open these doors for these big ticket size guys, for these small ticket size guys.
Hmm.
Um, Otherwise, it's just not economically feasible for them to enter, even if they know the founders personally.
Right. Right. I think this would be very helpful to all those who are listening. And yeah, so because this is something that because as you all know, that SpaceX is a company that look, everyone is aware about these days, right? So their Starlink missions and all those. Like I personally follow each and every of launch, whatever they do. So there is that mindset ki, I want to invest this in these kind of companies. So I think this is something that people should know about. Ki, there is an option as Tokenfolio is providing that solution where you can pitch in and you can have that relatively small token size and you can by their sort of shares, right? Maybe in the secondary market, but yeah, you can hold some percentage over there. Great.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, Abhishek, my next question is like, as you mentioned about SpaceX and Postman, right? So, anything else, any other brand you would like to talk about, considering the secondary market and
Right. So, to be honest, I should have been a bit more extra careful about like these details, right? When we run deals, we don't mention them on the website.
okay,
Usually, they are
right.
for they are legal reasons as well in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to put some confidential financials of SpaceX or these companies online. Like, in some cases, we have good relationship with the company and we want to maintain that, of course. But also, these deals are for accredited investors only at the moment, at least. What that
Right.
means is, people should have a certain level of, defined by Indian government in this case, a certain level of wealth to invest in these deals. Just like how if you invest in angel listing, just like how you make other startup, just like how you invest in other startups, you need to meet those criteria. So which is why it's not open to all yet,
Got
but
it.
it is open to anybody
Got it.
who has investment capacity of let's say more than 5 lakhs or more than 4 lakhs, which is 5K US dollars. So yeah, these deals are not publicly mentioned. We don't advertise these deals on like our website. Even you will not find these deals mentioned there. We do it
Hmm.
very closely with the community that we have. So people who
Hmm.
sign up get access to it through email newsletters and whatnot. And which is why I think I'm a little bit also more careful about listing out more names that we are associated with at the moment. I'm sure sooner or later we will have now as we are now getting on the cap table of the companies, we will have a longer relationship with them. So I'm sure we'll try to open it up to broader folks here in India.
Great.
But if they are both of these companies are US companies. So there is
Right.
a common trend that I'm seeing in Indian companies and US
Hmm.
companies, even though Postman is now a US company, by the way, so I'm going to treat it like that. Um, I feel like Indian companies, not only Indian employees are unaware of ESOPs and how to deal with them. I feel like Indian companies intentionally stop that. Like they are Indian companies, if you read their ESOP policies, they are
Hmm.
not very employee friendly. They are actually
Okay.
they are clause that intentionally stop people from dealing with their ESOPs and which is
Okay.
so it's not the entire ecosystem needs a bit more awareness, I think, right? So it's not just the employee part that we need to fix. Even if an employee in India, so I know a few folks that hold they like one of the early people in Flipkart, for example, and this person holds like 5 CR worth of Flipkart shares. It's not a listed company yet at the moment, and there's no news of IPO or whatnot. So I feel like, and then we had a conversation and we had a look at ESOP policies, but then the legalities were so complicated and like they were intentionally clause inserted into it that it was stopping him from freely transferring those shares, which is why
Hmm.
we couldn't deal with
Right.
it. Or same like is the case with Swiggy, Ola, and a bunch of other companies.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I feel like Indian founders are aware of it, um, but on the other hand, US companies like there's a stock difference, and all the US companies are at a certain level where they offer employees enough rights to transact in their shares and then even turn it into real wealth. Indian companies make it intentionally harder. So that's definitely a trend that I'm seeing here. So although we have clients that are interested in getting out uh,
Hmm.
of their Flipkart holdings and whatnot, but honestly, like even companies that I'm closely associated with, like our college seniors, for example, they started a bunch of unicorns as well. Even them, man, like I feel it's a trend in the country that somebody need to change, and hopefully this financial awareness reaches to that level as well soon. Yeah. If you think about it, man, like I spoke to this founder. He is a founder of a very well-known unicorn, the delivery-based unicorn. I had a meeting last week. They are interested in secondaries, as in
Okay.
essentially they want to liquidate, they want to allow some of their investors to exit,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
only the institutional ones, right? So they it's like the entire ecosystem is built to serve the rich guys
Okay.
and not medium rich, not middle class yet. So I feel like it is intentionally blocked for some reason, for the average Indian at the moment. So this is something we need to definitely shift
Hmm.
sooner or later as India
Right.
becomes a bit more financially independent and financially aware. As Shark Tanks of the country are spreading more awareness.
Right. 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 So I think, as you correctly mentioned about how important it is. for India specifically, and we also know that the youth presently in India, we have the largest section of youth population, and that's why this population needs to be financially aware on the startup ecosystem, on the basics of finance. So I'll just ask you, this question is from my side, like just being from IIT Kanpur. So any one instance from IIT Kanpur, right, that you feel that that triggered your mindset towards this startup world or anything, like if you don't want to go towards that, but any one instance from IIT Kanpur, your college life, so that basically shaped your mind somewhat. So any one thing, anything.
Right, right. So I feel like a lot of people, looking at where I came from, a lot of people, like especially my dad, looks at it and like, oh, what is wrong with you that you want to give up a nice paying job and whatnot. So this is so essentially he would view this question as, what went wrong with you in IIT Kanpur that you ended up here. So man, I feel like I know the trigger point that happened in this journey, and that was not at IIT Kanpur. Back in IIT, I was at some point thinking about doing UPSC. I'm a small town guy from North India, and a lot of people are just UPSC focused. If you've done IIT, then you do UPSC. So I was in that journey at some point. Then I was like, man, screw this. I'm gonna go make some money. So I got just landed the highest paying job at that point what campus had to offer. So,
Hmm.
but then I hated that, and so I think it was a good iteration that I had that this was out of my head quickly that okay, money doesn't matter so much. So you should not do startups for money. By the way, if somebody is listening here, somebody on that front is listening here. So but the incident that happened is I know my sister was in Delhi. She might be in this call as well, I think. At some point she was bored of her. She had to give exams. Like when you become a doctor, you have to do a lot of exams there. So
Hmm.
at some point she was like, why don't you do a startup? Like, people like you are doing like building Zomatos and Flipkarts, and why don't you try and build like innovate something? And that was like, I don't know, that was 2016, 17, I think. And that sort of stuck to my head. Like, why not? Like, there's no reason to not do it, of course, at least not give it a shot. So I did have a couple of failed attempts. Then I built something in Germany. So that was actually the trigger point that got me thinking, like, she's right. Like, I'm young. There's not much risk to take. And even now, I feel like there's no risk because I feel like when you get on this journey, you learn so much that if you go back to a job, you're just so much more skilled. So,
Right, right.
and hence there's no, even if you don't make any money for some years, there's no really risk. But at IIT Kanpur, really, I think that nothing like that happened. But the story of Shreya definitely stuck to my head. In this case, for people who have been around that time. So, Farid was a 2011 entry to college, so 2015 grad. I think 2014 grad, and then I was 2016. So a lot of people closely know him. And then OK Credit came, which is also a very large
Right,
company from
right.
IIT Kanpur. So
I
I feel
think
like
that
that one
that
story, yeah. So I feel like that
just
one story for people who were in the campus at that time, like I worked with Faridan in the Tech Kriti, one of the festival things we would do. I did not really know him personally, but then I also, everybody knew in the campus that this guy, something is wrong with this guy. Like he is, trying out random stuff. So he ended up building ShareChat few years on the line. He and like, of course, a couple of other seniors.
right,
That story really like opened people up to like, okay, what is possible in this space? You can literally just leave campus, not get a job, and build a
right,
$4 billion company.
right.
And then OK Grade came, and then a bunch of others followed. And like I feel like this started this the trigger point which IIT Kanpur needed. Like somebody need to open people's mind. Like okay, what is possible
Exactly,
on this
exactly.
journey? So that was
So
definitely a trigger point, if you ask me.
that particular 2 to 3 years which you are talking about, that why live in Whitefield, Y13 batch. So
Yeah.
we saw No Car, we saw Share Chat, we saw multiple startups from those batches. So yeah, you're correctly mentioning about that trigger point which IIT Kanpur needed to have. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And if you come to Bangalore, other people from that batch are also now quitting their job, and now like I know so many more founders popping up now from those batches. Like even my batchmates as well. Like just this sounds more exciting looking back to people, of course. So I feel like we will have more of these stories in the next couple of years.
great, 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 amazing. So yeah, so I think we can have this talk of IIT Kanpur. Yeah, we can have
Separately,
this
man.
multiple separately. So cool. So Abhishek, like just I think first I'll just write like to address the audience. If you want to ask some questions, you can write it in the chat box. Meanwhile, Abhishek, just like to all the college-going folks right now in the call. So, any one piece of advice you would like to give them, or any more than that, anything you want to share with them, like on the financial aspect,
Um,
on the non-financial aspect, anything.
I feel like colleges are the best times of your life to try and build something. The most successful companies that I'm aware of, looking back, they were people who were building it in the campus, and they had like you can have like really bad attempts. You can build something stupid that nobody uses, and then you learn so much from it. Then you build something amazing. So for ShareChat, I already built like 2 to 3 different things that the parent company of ShareChat was something else before, like
Right.
which was used by nobody. So I feel like those it's an important iteration to have. The sooner you do it, the better. So you will start on this and you will fall on your face for sure. Better fall on your face when you're in campus because you have space to try out things, and and more than that, you need peers to build things with. You cannot. I feel like one of the opportunity costs that I've had that IIT Kanpur was such a good place to find a co-founder or a business partner. You can call it in simple words. I feel like it's difficult to find out that level bond with, and then you need beyond working, you need other things, man. You need some blind faith on your partner. Yeah, like you need to rely on them. Like when you are away for some reason, they will pick up the work and keep the wheel going, especially when things get hard. So I feel like those level bonds are important to build, and they're much easier to build in college because they're organically just living with people in hostels. So I feel like if you are even remotely considering this, do it in college along with your courses. Because there's no pressure to make money, pay your bills and whatnot. It is really the like for so many reasons the best times. All these people that I did talk about on this call, including people like who build shared chat or crediting, maybe even companies like Postman and a lot of IT Delhi companies came out. Those are the people who were working on some random stuff in campus together, who tried and then built something which was useless, but then they came out and then they had they hit the ball out of the park at that point. So do get on the spot, I would say, just like informally keep on trying stuff, or like keep this door open in your mind. If you're in campus, that those are the golden eras. Yeah.
Right. Great. Yeah, just keep building. I think this is something that we can get this that thing that you mentioned about it. And yeah, so I think do we have questions? Like I'll just again uh, just check.
I think meanwhile in the meantime when people are adding questions, I'll ask. Um, I'll actually mention that when you do these things right, you build your resume so much more than the
Mm,
conventional. Everybody in the campus might be adding points like, oh, I manage this club, that club. Like this, if you have a startup attempt in your resume, you will stand out. Like when I look at people now, and a lot of founders and a lot of companies I know, they look for failed entrepreneurs, like because the people know that the learnings are off the charts, you know. So it's like also like when you do that, even if you get nowhere at all, you are in your resume when people look at it, you are at a different level already. So
yeah,
entrepreneurial
right.
attempts are always one of the golden things you can find. I think somebody was asking in the chat about like how you can invest in companies with 5 to 10K. Did I read that right?
I guess yes. So I'm just trying to find out the question. Yeah,
So
maybe I
yes,
think that was the question.
yeah, it's so Tokenfolio at the moment is for big ticket size investors. By that I mean professional investors, accredited investors in technical terms. We do accept minimum ticket size for growth level companies. The moment which is minimum at 5K for Postman, and for bigger deals like basically it's like more than 20K US dollars. Everything I spoke about for some reason this call was in US dollars. So excuse me. So at the moment, if you are a college student, you don't need to play with your own money. I mean, you can still do the important part of the deals if you are interested in investing space without actually investing your own hard-earned cash or whatever you made, let's say in internships. So we don't have any opportunities like for people to invest in 5K, 10K rupees yet. But hopefully in India we'll build better tools for people to give access to like
Mm,
some of the private market opportunities.
mm. I think there is one question. Yeah. How many years of dedication do you think is required to build a successful startup? Yeah. There is one question.
I think, man, this is similar to like how many hours of J preparation you did. So my phone's about to die. I have to like hold it like that for now. I feel like there's it's almost always it's about your interest, man. Don't do something which does not excite you to any level. Don't build startups for just the fanciness of it or the money or whatever. If it should be ideally something that you really enjoy and you feel strongly about. So when that happens, then you don't take so many years to build something good. It's like when you're a dancer, don't spend time studying and perfecting mathematics. Like just dance, do what you like. So that's very similar to startup. Like ideally, it should not feel like work because the number of hours you need to put in. The people I know, the best founders, they're obsessed. They are like they don't think about anything else. Right? And then people might find it crazy and they're like, oh, this guy is doesn't have a social life or whatever. But I think for the right reasons, you should be obsessed or not. And you anyway need to because hurdles are so many. Nobody knows you. You're poor. You're a college student, whatever. You need to build a name for yourself, right? So otherwise, the hurdles are too many. You'll give up if your salary does not come up, which will not come up, I'm sure, in early stage. So don't look at years. Look and don't think about okay how long I need to go. You should when you jump in the water, you should have at least 6 months of like finances arranged. If you live in a hostel, crash in your friend's room and like don't pay whatever anything. Do those kind of things. But like at least you should plan for 6 months. Like how can you survive for 6 months without any money coming in? You should at least have that. Um, but yeah, don't look at years otherwise. Things will change. You'll figure out something in 6 months to survive another 6 months.
Right.
That's how it should go. Yeah.
Right. Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Abhishek. I think just last piece of advice in general, anything you would like to share. Right. So this was as I told you before, on the for the college folks in general, whatever you think, anything you would like to just after this 50 minutes of discussion, maybe. So what you would like to just tell our audience, any one thing.
Specific for college folks.
No, in general. Yeah. Because we have some audience who are above 30 and yeah.
Right. I feel like something happened with my phone. Excuse me, guys.
Oh,
This is
it's
I'm not used.
zoomed in.
I'm not used to Instagram, dude. Like I barely use it. Um,
No
yeah.
issue.
So I think the thing I feel strongly, one of the things I feel strongly about is, as I mentioned, the ESOP thing. So some summary and then the one takeaway I would want to just leave you guys with, like if you are negotiating your salary offers, do think about ESOPs very like do think about it pretty hard. Like do not prefer if you have enough cash to like how much you need to survive a month. Focus more on ESOPs. Why? One, because ESOPs are cheap for companies to give out. And if you're sitting with a manager, he might not have the authority or he might not be able to give you 25,000
More.
raise per month, but
Hmm.
he might be able to give you 1 lakh because that's not coming out of their own pocket. The company funds are still intact. But that's real money for
Right.
you. And not only real money, that this is money that this is an appreciating asset. You might get like in the long run, they
Hmm.
compound really nicely. And
Hmm.
especially if it's a
Hmm.
company as good as Swiggy, Flipkart, or like the next Swiggy or next Flipkart, this is an opportunity. Like, why worry about investing into public markets?
Hmm.
Like, oh, hey, I'm not investing into Tata Motors or whatnot. Like, just stop thinking about all that. I should be investing. This is you investing if you're holding ESOPs now. So I feel like change the negotiation strategies a little bit, and because most people don't do it. Like, maybe managers are also comfortable because nobody really like strike that heavy on ESOPs.
Right.
So do think about that pretty actively. Sooner or later, when company raise funds, you'll be surprised when the cash out day comes, or if you have vehicles like in this case, when we work with some companies, at least for some companies, we are able to help people get some liquidity.
Hmm.
Hopefully, there will be more like us in the market in the next days, where ESOPs are just an additional asset, just like
Hmm.
how gold is, just like how listed shares are. So, one piece of advice: treat ESOPs as real wealth because this is something you earn by working all these days and nights. So why not look at this as real wealth?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope all the audience would have enjoyed this live session. So again, thank you so much, all the people who joined this live session. And yeah, I think you had it. So you enjoyed this live, and I hope you'll, what's your opinion? Like anything? How you felt?
Pretty interesting session, man. Honestly, like I'm not used to these things, especially Instagram as a platform. I've done Twitter Spaces before, where it's just audio and it's quite a cool tool to interact. And I feel like this is reaching your audience is, I think the right audience to talk about these things. We don't, as a business, we don't deal with ESOPs and all these parts, but these are
Right.
pain points that we everyday, like everyday pain points that I see. So, and honestly, some of these are like frustrating when I see it. For example, same company that we had, one of the companies that we're dealing with. I
Right.
talked to a batchmate of mine who's like who's a graduate from IT company and working in the same company for like at least more than five years now. That person is holding, let's say, X ESOPs. And then I spoke to US people who are same company working in US, and they
Hmm.
worked for, let's say, 2 years, so much less than what this person is working with. And those people are
Right.
holding like sometimes 10x, sometimes 100 times more shares. And I feel like Indian people are not even aware. The scales are
Right.
so like it's so off track. Like, and I know people who are happy with, let's say, 10,000 shares or ESOPs, and then there are people who are owning 500,000
Hmm.
ESOPs. So I feel like
Hmm.
if you're content in this, that's good. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you really look at the same way you do same work, more or less similar profiles, if you look at other side of the market, I feel like it is Indians being still treated a little bit. There's still like this income disparity, you can call it.
Oh.
It's we're bridging this
Hmm.
gap, but I feel
Hmm.
like this era, this front has to be addressed. And I talked to these people in the states,
Right.
and like one of the Indian guys who just moved there and lives in San Francisco now. But then I feel like somebody need to. I cannot openly say that to these employees, like, hey guys, literally, if you're happy with this, you can have, at least you can try to have, or do better negotiations at least, right? So I feel like it is the decade of Indian Silicon Valley. So it's
Right. Right.
still those US people are gaining 10x 100x is more. Why, like,
Right.
I want to bring that change here in India, and so I feel like this call really like helped me um, convey this part of the business, which is not really honestly the commercial part of the business. But I
Right.
feel like this is one of the changes that I personally want to bring. Now coming back to India, very nationalistic about it, like, hey, it's India's decade, let's kill it. And there are people like Zero the founders, like Nitin Kamath and all that. They are highly, like, people are the same mindset. That people are suggesting Indians to not move out, and because of
Right.
the upcoming growth and also I believe in those. I do believe in that narrative as well. Indians are one of the most smartest, like one of the smartest folks out there, so they also should deserve some of the best um, education as well as opportunities. So yeah, I think this call was helpful for that.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much. I think Abhishek, personally, also for me, it was quite insightful, and yeah, definitely our audience would have loved this session. I'm 100% sure. So great. Thank you so much, Abhishek. I think we'll wrap up the live and let's connect more in future. And yeah, again,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining the live.
Thank you very much, guys, for having me, and great initiative you are taking with financially aware about it. And let me know. Happy to support in any way I can.
Definitely, definitely. We'll connect soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much. Yeah.
guys. Have a nice day. Take care.